Hello and welcome to another episode of the Family Business with the Alessis. And you've caught us during our mid-season summer shorts. This is where we like to let you guys hear some of our best clips, the most popular stories, the words of wisdom, and the funniest moments that have made our season so enjoyable over the last 6 seasons. So we're going to get right into some more stories right now. You'll hear from a lot of the Alessis, some stories that you might not have heard or remember, but they're going to help you think, laugh, and get right back into the business of running your family. So enjoy these words of wisdom and our summer short stories.
Older, it definitely changes and shifts. The expectations of mom changes on her son, especially if it's her only son. And I'm watching this and taking notes, just so you know. But I think you and I have a very different relationship because of our verbal energy that we have. We talk incessantly and a lot. So it's different. Dad is a completely different personality, right? So there's a difference there. But also on the broader scale, when there's a lot of single moms raising sons and the expectation of the son and just kind of covering all of that, how simple men are, really. They're so simple. And women tend to complicate them because we're complicated. So as a mother who has, in her mind, raised this savior of the world son, the perfect son, we're just born that way. You're going to see that with Rochelle raising Marino. Stephanie's about to have Matthew. You'll see them, their mothering is very different than it is with daughters. So I think, though, I'd like for us to keep the audience listening and not turn this off. Just, you go ahead and talk about our relationship, Chris. And my expectation or any pressure that my mothering puts on you.
Okay.
Besides which I don't think I perfect, do.
The perfect woman in the world. Beside that, in the comparison trap of, all of that.
But I know your problems with your dad, not me. But go ahead. Just for the sake of the podcast.
I will say, when you brought up the topic, I got an image of the Dolphin Stadium, because right next to the Dolphin Stadium, where they play all their games, is a very big, training facility. It's a big practice field, and it's right there. And, the father is always the coach of the son. Always. That never stops. But I have thought that the mother is that practice field. It's the training ground. And it's not that they get your worst at all. It's actually how you practice is how you'll play. And Dad helped me see early on that the way I treat my mother, the way I view my mother, is the way that I will treat my wife, and really, as a leader, anyone I lead. I mean, the way that I don't really see a one-for-one from the way I treat my dad to the way I treat people.
Right.
Because he's always up. But my mom, it's like the way I treat my mom is really the way I'll treat anyone that I love. And so I've seen that, and I that's why I got that image, yeah, the game, is over here, but that practice field is right there. And that's what dictates how well the game will go. And so I think there have been times where you have definitely given me a lot to practice.
Okay.
But I would say I'm one of the lucky few. Definitely one of the lucky few. And I would think that if there are sons listening, even daughters, the way you treat your mom, regardless of who she is or what she does or how good the turf is, how good the facilities are, how you practice is how you'll play. And if people don't like you and the way you treat them, your mom probably doesn't like the way you treat her.
Right.
And so I don't know. I think that I would hope my mom would think that I treat her well.
Yes.
And I think my wife thinks I treat her well. And I do believe it's because, 3 sisters and a mom gives you a lot of practice.
Okay, let me interject.
And a lot of progesterone.
Let me interject.
And estrogen.
I like this. This is a great conversation, by the way.
Do we have any personalized Alessi Family Business
Okay.
Podcast tissues.
Yeah, really.
Branded.
You have said over the years
That reveals the logo as the tears. Sorry, continue.
You have said over the years, Mary, that anytime Chris and I are, or Chris has a challenge with me in the office, he goes to you, and the two of you kind of
Working out.
Practice, you coach him along the way to say, hey, this is how you got to deal with your dad. This is things you got to say, and so on and so forth. I know it's hard for you to believe, but he actually does the same thing with me, with you.
No,
But that's
does
more
not.
lately.
That's more lately.
That was never
Got some
growing
new
up.
coffee coming in.
Look
coming
at
in
you.
hot. That's
And
right.
the tissues, there they are.
Oh yeah.
Wait, that's mine.
Oh.
How did you get my coffee cup?
I don't know. Because it's about me
Here,
today.
it's okay, AP. Jump right
Thanks.
in here. Thank you, Melanie.
She brought me
some
Merino
hot
in our last podcast.
She did.
So she's
All right,
delivering
so-
babies.
Oh.
Yeah, he does. He does. We talk about you, Mary, and making sure
Really?
that. But it's all good.
Yeah, can I think?
Okay, stop. See how men do? See how you all did? Y'all just did that. Oh, but no, it's all fine. It's all
Well, hold on, no,
Because
because
we're
I
big
think,
picture minded.
I think
We have a.
women would go, yeah, he does because he has issues with you and because you don't take the time to stop and talk to him and because you're a terrible father. That's how women.
that's actually
can't
that is
handle
true.
the
It is
truth.
true, and men
Meanwhile-
do both
can't
of you.
handle the truth.
You think I can't handle the truth?
I'm kidding.
Do you really think I can?
Am I mediating
That was
or
a
is he?
joke. Come on.
Okay,
go for
I
actually
don't
no.
think it was a
Hey,
joke. I think
you know what
you
I think's
meant every
happened?
word
So you mentioned, Mom, that it changes over
Yeah.
time. And when I was younger, I was almost a 1-for-1 mini me of you.
100%.
The way that I thought, the way that I processed,
yes.
I was all you. And I think it was because what my community needed of me required that. But as things have shifted, as I've become a married man and as I've had a kid and even my role in the organization has shifted, I've noticed more of him coming out in me.
Right.
And to the point where I'm understanding his side of things.
Yeah.
I'm going back over my entire life to conversations where I just thought he was speaking complete and total hieroglyphics. And I'm like, I get it now. And so it's almost kind of like the part of me that was so much like you, I almost don't even, that's not coming up naturally anymore. And it makes sense because I have to provide a fathering role to Marino now, a leadership role to my home, which is we make the Enneagram joke, the 8 in him. So I don't know.
It's the man in him.
Yeah, sure.
It is. I can.
And now
It's
you're
completely
manning up.
shifted.
But I think this is really personally. Okay, stop. Okay, I'm trying to be serious and help our audience. This is exactly what mothers need to hear,
Yeah.
especially. Well, I think every mother of sons, but single moms as well. Here's why. What you're saying is when you were a young man, because a mother's love is unconditional, a father's love is conditional. A father says you take out the trash.
And that starts
good with
even
me.
even as an infant.
It starts
Because
right away.
You're feeling it.
You're
I
already
see
seeing
it
with
right
me.
now.
I see it in you with Marino. Like he cries with me and I don't like it. I'm like, he's a baby.
Let me be clear. My son and I are very connected.
Oh God.
We are not one. I am not. But hold on, no,
6
because I am
months
not. I am not one of those fathers who thinks I'm disconnected from my infant.
No way.
I'm very. I could take him for a whole
Yes,
day
you
and
could.
be fine.
Dude, you
Continue.
taught him how to kiss.
I love.
Oh,
I
he's
love
such a
kissing that
lovey
kid.
mouth so much now, he just wants to kiss
He just
everybody.
kisses
It's
us
the
all. He's
greatest
5
thing.
months old and he's kissing.
Kid's going to be a great kisser when he gets
But
older.
no, he won't. He's not gonna. Okay. So here's the point.
He's gonna tell his wife, my daddy taught me
how to kiss.
so gross.
Well, it's better than my mom.
I don't know.
Let's get back. Let's get back
I
on
knew
the.
this is what happens when you just
You're
throw
about to see the Alessi red come out.
a
in
topic
me.
out. Anyway,
Teenage girls, it only gets harder because when you become a young adult, you're responsible for yourself. And then you have to make the decision of, do I actually want to wear this or do I want to protect myself? There was a couple weeks ago, we went out to this restaurant with a bunch of our friends and I wore like this white romper and it was like this long romper. I was covered up. Nothing was showing. Frankly, it was one of those outfits that it's like, just show a little bit of your neck. My gosh. It was like super, it was very modest. But it was a white outfit. It was a beautiful, beautiful outfit. I loved it. And I was walking through the restaurant and I saw this older guy And I was like, this guy's looking at me. And it's disgusting. I hated it. And he did the whole, like, I walked by him, he looked at me from this side, and then when I walked by him, he actually turned and, like, looked again. And I wanted to curl up in a ball. I was like, I want to go home, I want to put a robe on, I want to cover up entirely. And it just so gave me this feeling, it was like, it gave me the ick. Yeah. You know, I was like, I don't want to do this. But it did make me realize I am in a season and I am becoming a woman and I am looking a certain way where I don't want people to see me that way.
Yeah.
I don't want men to look at me that way. It has nothing to do with you taking responsibility. No, I don't want you to look at me that way.
Yeah.
And if there's something that I can do on the front end to just protect myself and present myself in a more professional or a more modest way, then I am going to do that. Because ultimately, I want to protect what I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you also, did you want to say something?
No, go ahead.
I think something to go back to is how to dress when you are dating. Either like in the dating world or you are dating somebody specifically.
Yeah.
And I learned very quickly that every single girl, and I say this with purity of heart, every single girl is very smart. And we know what can get a reaction out of a guy. We do.
Yeah.
And it's actually our gift because we need that when you're married. You need that to protect yourself too. But we can use that to our advantage when we're trying to attract men. And we use that to our advantage when you're trying to attract the person that you are dating and you like when they like how you look, especially when you're married. Like, you're like, I really hope I bought this dress specifically for you. And that starts very early in a girl's brain.
Yeah.
Like, very early.
Too early.
It does.
Gosh, Gianna would walk in the room and be like, Daddy.
Oh,
and she's
my
wearing her little
gosh.
dress and she loves to show her dad her dress. But it's I think every girl has to just admit it.
Yep.
You know what can get a guy's reaction.
Yeah.
And if you know, then you have to practice that control. And you have to practice that gift.
Yeah.
Save it for marriage. Save that gift for marriage. Do not use it now. But come to the realization that man, like...
Well, and okay, I think it's a great thing for a girl to be like, I want to walk into a room and have a presence about me. Like, even if she's married, be like, I want to have the presence of I'm this man's wife. You know, like, you can do that without flaunting everything. And I was always the girl who was like, I love fashion. I have loved fashion all my life. So when I would see, and I still see the trends going a certain way that now I'm just like, this isn't even fashion. This is just goofy.
Yeah.
But you're like, how do I like match up with this? Because it's not even stuff I like to wear. But I'll never forget, I heard a quote from Alexander McQueen. And if you haven't looked into his designs, you need to look into his designs. And he's like, I think women are so cool and so powerful that I want to make designs that make people fear what women are wearing, that make people fear women because I just think they're so powerful and so strong. But I was like, man, that's awesome in a certain way. Like, I don't agree with that fully, but I like that he's designing clothes that women can put on that gives women a presence.
Yeah.
So I kind of like the idea of, like, have a presence about you, not one that's like half naked. But
Yes.
Walk into a room and put nice makeup on, do your hair, like wear your heels. That was something our grandfather would always tell us. Like when we would go all out in our outfit, he would always like really, really compliment us on it and really appreciate it because he's like, thank you. And he was Italian, so he really appreciated that and he grew up with that concept. But I don't think it's bad for a woman, because naturally that's in us, to want someone to go, hey, your outfit, you stepped it up and you look amazing today. I think that's naturally in us. But it's when you're manipulating it for the wrong reasons that, okay, it goes bad. And I think we just need to make sure our hearts and our minds are in a pure place and making sure it comes from, you know, a really great place, because we've all seen that woman who dresses up for attention from men. She gets the guy and then she wears sweats and no makeup and never does her hair again. And it's like,
oh my God.
Okay, so who are you dressing up for? And then you see some girls that they're just consistent with their style. And even after they get married, they have this presence about them. And that's the sort of like modesty I aspire to be.
Exactly.
You're not dressing up
to achieve anything. That's just who you are.
Yes.
That's your presence.
And you're consistent with it.
They
And I'd
don't get
also
involved. They don't take sides. They're very understanding, even when it comes to big staff meetings or planning sessions. And we would bump heads, even with Mom and I over the years, bump heads. But here's why I bring that up. Because people, of course, may think, well, you guys always get along. No, we don't. But we figure out how to work it out. The other side to that is, Chris, when frustration arises because of the work, things that happen on the job, there's a need for us to protect the integrity of the workplace. And you, and in your book, which is entitled Up Next, you have a chapter on what is called the ride home. So why don't you kind of unwrap that a little bit? Tell us what that actually looks like.
Well, it's funny. It's, how we all could have one truth, but take so many different things from it.
Yeah.
Because Dad hears about it, and he sees the side of protecting the workplace. But when I wrote The Drive Home, it was really more because of my experience as a youth pastor with my sister Stephanie. Stephanie was the worship leader. I was the youth pastor. And we normally would ride to and from church together because it was Friday nights. We weren't at work. And so it was hilarious how driving on the way to church was worship music. We're so excited. We're talking about things. I'm processing my sermon with her. She's listening. Yeah. She's practicing her song. It's all that. But the drive home was a lot different.
Yeah.
Things didn't go right. We both had certain expectations for the overall night and the part that we played. We both expected more of somebody. And then all of a sudden you have to keep that good face on the entire service. You had to keep, especially as the leaders, you could not let people think something was wrong, because one of the other parts of the book is if they're asking what's wrong, you've already lost. No one's focusing on the night. They're not focusing on you. So it was always keeping that on, making sure, okay, I'll deal with this later. And then as immature, younger kids, we got in the car and we went to blows. We weren't fighting about the issues. We were fighting because we had issues. And we would go at it and go at it and go at it. And it was almost like if there were subtitles, they would say, you're the cause of all my problems and the reason we're not as good as I want to be. And she'd be saying, you're the reason for all my problems and why my area of ministry isn't as good as I want it to be. And it's so funny how when you start those fights, not necessarily fighting over the issues to find out what's the best option, but when you're drained and you're upset and you now allow your emotion to come out in a fight, it's funny how it became real personal real fast. And how it was now, this is a you problem. And if you would just, and that's where, in fighting, you have to learn. I think some of my psychology taught me, some of our families taught us, be very careful with how you fight. You don't make it personal. Even in our fighting, you have given us certain rules we don't do this. We don't use words like, I don't agree, whatever. But the drive home is about making sure you protect that time when you're going to be most drained, when now the effects of the ministry and keeping a good face on have hit us the most.
You're emotional.
We protect that time, because what we found is if we did that, what Stephanie and I found is if we did that at that time, it did follow us into work the next day. So the thing we should have done from the beginning was, hey, there's 5 or 6 things that didn't go right. Let me write them down. And when I get to work the next morning, let me write them down. Let me talk about them. Let's fight then. Let's talk about it. So the truth is, you mentioned protecting the integrity of the workplace. Well, that means do work at work. Now, we're a family. We do work at home all the time. But there's certain work, leave that for the office. And that allowed us to be family at home. Yeah. So that allowed me to be Brother Chris in the car, not Pastor Chris in the car. That allowed Stephanie to be my sister Stephanie, not necessarily the worship leader who felt like I shouldn't have rushed her in that last song because we needed to make up for time. So it protected all of the environments. And that was really, really hard. I think, Dad, you had the opportunity, you had the right to say, no, we're at home, but we're going to work. Or, hey, we're at work, but we're going to talk about family stuff. You had that right, but I didn't. And I did not have the right to take problems home, especially when we all lived together. When you and Mom had your day off, when you guys were in bed, when you guys were going to sleep, you guys used to call me the bomber, the Unabomber, because we'd walk right into your office. This is what's wrong with our world.
Bedroom.
Your bedroom, forgive me.
Yeah.
Drop a bomb, and then now that I vented, want to go my separate ways.
Yeah.
And so we had to learn to put boundaries around that. If dad wanted to talk about work stuff at home, he had every right to do that because you know what? He's paying for both the work stuff and the home stuff. But as one of the subordinates of the home, I had to learn I couldn't do that. And it's prepared us. Now that I'm married, I know how to do it.
Yeah.
And it's taught us. So that's what the drive home is.
Yeah. And it's okay that we talk our business, family business at home. We can't separate. We can never separate who we are from what we do in our line of work. If you got to be it first before you do it, then you got to realize ministry starts at home first. And ministry, the work of the ministry is hammered out. So even right now, Chris, sometimes our best planning sessions happen at home, not in the office, sitting on the patio, looking out, getting creative, talking about how we're going to handle something coming up. And it frees us up from some of the chatter that we get when we come to the office. So the home's not a bad place. What happens is when we go through a service, and Gabby, you with young kids today, it's very easy to have a service, have somebody share something with you that they're going through, and then you get in the car and you can bring some of that stuff home with you, some of the problems that are going to burden you as a leader. And sometimes you've got to figure out between the time you leave church, by the time you get home, to be able to kind of say, all right, I'm not the savior here. And I can't do anything about it right now. But when I get back in the office tomorrow, I can engage. And that going home period can be a challenge sometimes.
It's very challenging. And I try to tell, because thankfully, I learned a lot from him really going through that. And he had a lot of trials and errors. And I got to kind of pick from, okay, Lauren and I were in the car with he and Steph, and they would go at it. And I would see how he was just emotionally drained. I mean, he spoke for 30 minutes. And he was young, 45 minutes. 45 minutes. I tried not to, but you did it. No, but he would speak, and we both know how draining that is physically, but emotionally. And after you speak, especially when you speak to young people, you don't get a response when you speak to older people. You don't have people coming up saying, wow, that just so blessed me. You're speaking to youth. And now you have to believe that this is blessing them, and you have to be confident in yourself. But it's hard when you're young. So he would do that and get in the car, and it would be tough for him. So I saw how he would handle it, and I had to kind of make some ground rules for myself and even the team that I work with. And we've all made an agreement. If there's issues, if there's a mistake that was made with whether it was set up a tear down or worship, whatever, I ask all of them, hey, write it down in your notes and send it to me in the morning. And it was funny because I'm somebody that I can't really do two things at once. Chris is great at it. I can't multitask like him. And they would come to me with a problem after service, and I'd be talking to a young person, and I'd be like, what? I can't handle it. So we've created a culture of write it down, send it to me. And then I'll get in the car, and I just have to really fight because he had all of us girls in the car with him on Friday when he would lead the youth. I don't have anybody driving home with me.
You're alone.
I'm alone. And I have to, when I get in the car, my schedule, I could say, when I get in the car is, okay, I put on worship music and I process the service with the Lord. And I talk it all out, and I'll say, I didn't like that this happened. And but look at this kid, he came up and she came up. And I'll have that moment really with the Lord, and or sometimes I'll just sit in my car and just stay quiet and no music will play because I don't want to stimulate myself anymore. And I'll just let myself come totally down. And then I'll get home and you guys will ask me how it went. And since I learned from the bomb, I was like, don't do that. So I'll just speak to you guys, and then I'll pick it up the next morning. And I also try not to major over the minors, especially because you're working with young people, and I'm learning. So I really do have to let go and constantly let go of the stress and just take that moment. I'll say every time I get in the car on Wednesday nights when I'm by myself, I have to force myself to thank God for the position I'm in. Because no young 21-year-old girl is in the position I'm in and is getting to operate in this.
Not too many of them, Gabby.
No.
Not too many of them. Well,
we hope you enjoyed today's episode. Go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel, like this video, and click on the notifications bell so you can be notified for all of our future videos. And if you loved today's topic, we have plenty more. And you can click on this link right here to watch all of our videos so you can learn why family is everybody's business.